Do you ever wonder why your favorite sportswear brand, which you once loved and you once followed almost religiously on every single drop, eventually lost its way? This is a mistake that a lot of sportswear brands fall into over time, especially as they get larger and larger. And what I call this is the founder taste drift, which essentially happens when you have a sportswear brand that starts with a very specific niche focus and a strong understanding of its core consumer base. And over time, as there's pressure to expand, as there's pressure to one-up the previous collection, what ends up happening is that the decision-making tree begins to soften, which eventually leads to what we call as this brand has lost its way. This has happened to many brands that we know over the years. Some have been able to recover and some haven't. So if you've ever wondered why your favorite brand has succumbed to this issue and why it's not the same as it was back in XYZ era, this is going to be the episode for you. And whether you're a startup brand looking to think ahead, to get ahead of the game, and to understand how you can make sure that you do not fall prey to these same issues, this is the episode for you. So without further ado, my name is Shadi. I'm the co-founder and creative director of FittDesign, the world's first sportswear design agency. And over the last 10 years, we have helped literally thousands of brands go from an idea to a physical product in under 30 days. So I've learned a thing or two by monitoring the market and seeing how trends evolve and how brands evolve in terms of what is the common pitfall that all major brands make at some point or another. Some brands recover it better than others, and some brands are now in the history books. The first and most common reason that taste drift typically happens and a brand loses its way is when the pressure to grow starts to get ahead of the decision-making process for product. Most brands ultimately do not drift because a founder or a creative director suddenly has bad taste. What happens is that as a brand grows, it has an obligation to maintain that momentum. And as it maintains that momentum, it takes on more and more cost. It takes on more and more growth trajectory, which leads to the size of decision making to grow larger and larger. And when you have to take larger decisions, if the main focus by which you take decisions isn't solid and you don't clearly understand why you're taking specific decisions, the quality of your decision making is going to degrade more and more. So at the beginning, the founder is a filter for the core decisions. But as those decisions grow and grow, just like any filter, it will start to get overworked and it will be unable to filter out effectively the majority of decisions. So a founder might understand what is right, who the customer is, but this is in a case where they might have 5 or 10 key decisions to make in a specific collection. But as they start to include additional SKUs, as they take on additional roles in the business, as the business grows, this is where the filter becomes more and more degraded. So you can see this pressure on a variety of brands over the last couple of years. And a great example of this is Gymshark between 2018 and 2022, seemingly as they began to expand into other categories and taking on more and more products that were outside of their core niche competitive landscape, only to come back and to sort of backtrack on that, going back to basics and focusing on the "we do gym" mantra. This is probably the most well-known example of this. So what is the first visible sign that might tell you that a brand is losing its way, or that it is driving a sort of wedge between it and its core consumer base? This comes down to it making softer and less intentional choices. These can be as simple as graphics that really don't retain the core brand identity. We've all seen the brand that has put a aesthetic in place for the first 1 to 2 years, and then it comes out with a weird capsule that really doesn't align with its core vision and its core mission statement. Perhaps the typography is used, perhaps the theme of the collection is completely off and doesn't align with the customer. And for a customer, what it feels like is dissonance, and dissonance leads to a lack of trust. It can also be things like in the color selection, where you might have a brand that is really focused on strong, bold, vibrant colors, suddenly just looking at trends and starting to blindly follow trends, going into more pastel, neutral colors. Again, this isn't to say that there isn't a time and place for brands to explore and to go outside of their core competency, but going outside of your core competency should be a decision, not an effect of decisions that you're unsure of. So ultimately, you become more safe as you take decisions that are softer and less intentional in nature, as you go for more commercial appeal. And as you drive towards that commerciality, what happens is that your core identity becomes diluted and you end up looking like everyone else, and you lose a lot of that initial uniqueness that the brand had. Next up is that your category expansion ends up being one of the biggest tests of your taste and your ability to maintain the general direction of the company over time. As the business grows, what ends up happening is that founders start to look at new categories of products that present new opportunities for revenue growth and for market share expansion. In doing that, sometimes the actual category that they picked isn't the right category for them. It's the brand that is doing gym that for some reason now all of a sudden gets into the Pilates space. It might make sense on paper because product categories are quite similar, but they forget their core demographic of customer who might be someone who's not interested in Pilates at all. And then they begin to run those two product categories alongside each other, alienating the old customer base and also creating a little bit of a dissonance with the new customer base that doesn't understand why their Pilates leggings is running alongside a gym stringer that's built for a strongman. So these category expansions can also distract brands from their original mission statement. As brands develop new and more exclusive and more intentional and more expensive products, it distracts them from the things that were driving the revenue forward and that were bringing the success to their business. This ultimately leads to a lot of brands building a universe before they build a clear identity and product clarity. This is the brand that you see that has hundreds of SKUs that more often than not confuses customers on what they should buy in the search of just more and more revenue. They say that the more product I have, the more likely it is that someone is going to be able to find something for themselves to buy. So they end up building a universe trying to satisfy everyone and everything at the same time without being clear on why and how those products play into the larger strategy of the brand. Because if you look at a brand as isolated islands of products, what you're doing is you're building a marketplace, and you will never be able to compete with the marketplace that is Amazon or the large marketplaces of the internet. So where you'll be able to compete is on brand. But if your product and your brand starts looking more like a marketplace, then you're fighting a losing battle. It becomes obvious that the taste drift issue has gone out of control when it's clear that a brand needs a reset. You tell that a brand needs a reset when there's too many SKUs, there's too many different color schemes, there's too many variations of the same product, there's too many core customer avatars that are being marketed to and spoken to. This is truly where the brand needs a reset. Many brands over the years have had this issue arise. And where you see the brands excel and succeed is when they take a look at their product portfolio and they begin to aggressively cut out core products that are not working for them. They begin telling themselves that more product doesn't equal more revenue. What it equals is more noise. So this is a core and key exemplifier of a brand that is facing taste drift is when they begin to cut back. Usually it's because of the taste drift issue and a financial issue. Those products did not pan out the way intended, and their sales data is giving them that information loud and clear. Ultimately, the brands that stay sharp are the brands that pick one lane and are consistent in it. Now, the challenge with one lane is that over time, you will achieve market saturation if you're good enough. And this will give you the illusion that you need to expand into different categories. There is some truth to that. Nike would not be where Nike is today if it didn't expand into Nike sportswear, Nike tech, Nike golf, Nike soccer. There are few brands that can do it well, and even to this day, Nike is often accused of having lost its way. And this is one of the reasons. At the end of the day, it's just the nature of business. If you look at the brands between the range of 10 to 100 million, these are brands that really are struggling to understand how do we maintain our core competencies, but how do we grow to the next level? And pretty much the only brand that has been able to do this successfully as of right now stands to be Gymshark between the 100 million to the $1 billion range. Other notable mentions that are sort of outside of the cusp of that are now beginning to clearly see the effects of taste drift are brands like Alo Yoga, Vuori, and Lululemon. They are consistently having to reevaluate what are the SKUs that are performing the best for them and what are the ones that are speaking closest to customers, and then cutting out the ones that do not work. Lululemon has lost a lot of its share value in the last 3 years because of that point alone. They're simply unable to keep up with the freshness of some of their competitive brands like Alo and Vuori because Lulu is just simply too big. So this creates opportunity for other brands to come in that are more fresh, and eventually the wheel will turn and even Vuori and Alo will face the same issue. The challenge is not facing the issue. Drift happens. It's the nature of and the cycle of business. It's how do you come back once the drift is identified, and how fast can you identify the drift? So you might be asking yourself, what is the fastest way for me as a founder to catch drift before it really becomes too late? The easiest way I would say is take a look at your most recent product release. Remove the logo from it. Can you still identify that product as your product? Even if it's a simpler item. If you look back at the early days of Alfleet in their lifestyle collection, all of their lifestyle pieces really had one unified aesthetic. It was activewear or athletic wear simply for people that want to take their athletics outside of the gym. So it was cotton, fitted, scoop neck, V-neck shirts that could be used in scenarios outside of the gym. And that silhouette and that mantra was very clear and evident in the product. It's kind of like how Christian would have decided or described it at the time as a higher quality version of Zara built for people that actually lifted. And all of their products at the time really focused on that aesthetic in that category. Something you could wear in the gym and you could wear out to a nice dinner at the end of the day. Now, as the brand grows, this is where you end up with taste drift, where you start to include new product categories or new additions to this lifestyle mantra. And then there's nothing to distinguish you from the crowd. You no longer become this brand that is a more elevated version of Zara that's specifically for people who lift and want to look great outside of the gym. Now you become Zara or a Zara knockoff as you add more and more products. So ultimately, how do we as brands stop the taste drift issue from happening? It's not necessarily about becoming rigid and closed off and afraid of expansion. Expansion is a necessary part of business. The brands that we hear of today are the brands that really knew how to overcome those bottlenecks. So it's about knowing what to say yes to and what to say no to. The questions that you might need to ask yourself are, how should my brand feel like consistently? And the feeling essentially means when a customer looks at your brand and experiences your brand and interacts with your brand, what is the feeling that we're giving them consistently? 2, it's what should the product communicate about me to the world? 3, it's what are the kind of choices that we want to consistently say yes to? Whether it's a marketing choice, whether it's a product selection choice, a fabric choice, a color choice, a communication choice, and what are the choices that we want to say no to? This is where founders will be able to create a clear roadmap and a sort of system by which they can make sure that they are not drifting over the prolonged period of time that they're building their business. And if you guys want to know personally yourself how you can build a business that can avoid the founder taste drift issue that we have outlined today and that you've seen countless of other brands fall victim to, you can check the link in the description and you can apply to work with us one-on-one. And literally within 5 to 10 minutes, you're able to get a personalized quotation and a roadmap in your inbox on how we can help you take your idea from an idea to a physical product in under 30 days. If you guys enjoyed this episode, please consider smashing a massive thumbs up. It helps us out. It keeps us motivated to keep pumping out this content for you. And I said this from the very bottom of my heart. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Fit Design TV. Until next week's episode, stay awesome.